Welcome back to some professional StarCraft 2, a best of 5 Terran versus Protoss with two of my favorite players right now for very similar reasons. But first, let me introduce to you, in the bottom right, the People's Terran, the one who makes it look like you could play Terran, no matter how many times you try to emulate Byun, no matter how many times you idolize Maru, or try to copy Clem. At the end of the day, you're better off being a cure. His opponent. His opponent. I thought I would go to the other side of the map, but it appears he wants to build his base halfway there. It's classic. It's classic, all right? Classic is back. And he's bringing out one of the most classic cheat. No, Jimmy, get the car. No, that's wrong. He's too gay. Okay. In the middle of the map, near the double rocks, hidden away by the vision blockers, an area where early scouts will not very likely path to, Classic is not known for his cheeses. But here, he's started out with a sharp one. Cure is... Oh no. Has Cure finally started what every Terran goes through phases of? It's the no scout opener. Every once in a while, Terran players will go back to scouting. They'll send the SCV out. They'll feel like, you know what, that 5% chance that this guy is doing a super cheesy, literally double gate zealot all in, I'm going to lose a tiny amount of minerals, and I'm going to send that SCV out. But appears even one of the more conservative players, one of the more stable Terrans, who relies more on macro and smart decision-making than micro. Well, it's Cure, who is not checking the central... Who would check there? Nobody builds the... Oh my god, it works so perfectly. Oh, this is disgusting. It's like disgusting and beautiful. Like, I don't know, a rugby game between furries or something. There's something wrong about it, but at the same time, it's good to see them being so enthusiastic. Well, there's a Reaper in the base, so Cure felt like he was doing pretty well, and then guess what?
Denied.
2 Stalkers, 1 Zealot. Cure has no units. So we caught the one game where Cure has not SCV scouted. Well, since there's no buildings at home, as this isn't advanced max packs here, well, it's just a straight-up 2-gate proxy. The Reaper not going to do nearly as much damage as multiple Stalkers and a Zealot. It looks like the bunker may actually finish. A Marine does get in, but the Stalkers are already inside the house. The Reaper not going to be nearly enough damage to counteract all this. A Marauder on the way, concussive shells in production. Yeah, it's not good. Cure. Let's not pretend like your build order would have been so much sharper had you not SCV scouted. He could have gotten the SCV in, seen, you know, no buildings in the base, or at least no expansion. Classic. Okay, he killed 12. He walked in. He broke open his door. He came in, killed 12 SCVs, and then just walked right out. There's concussive shells here. So enough. You're kind of splitting the damage. Gets 2 Stalkers. A bit of a scrap here, which is a nice way of saying a mess. That's not even a super pylon Classic who's building the rest of his base here. Whatever happened to that Reaper? The Reaper, I think, came back with the army and died as well. That's robotics. Classic was scared of the Marauders. He's now sitting on the vision blocker. The little, the smoke show there. I don't know what that is. It's the fancy lights. He doesn't feel like it should block, but yeah, you can see him. He can see you. I'm not sure who's flanking who here. Because Classic just kind of built a base out here. That's not... So, yeah, Cure is running through, trying to hunt down individual Stalkers, but he did lose his entire army. I think he underestimated the commitment. Yeah, a bunker being rebuilt, but that is definitely late. And with the Immortal joining the fray as the person knocking on your door that you don't want to answer, so you pretend like you're not home, but they're refusing to take no for an answer, and also they want to kill you. So pretty much the Jehovah's Witnesses of Protoss here. A Warp Prism. You're very optimistic about what his 6 Marines and a Marauder can do. And he chooses the best method to end the game, which is to tap out because he's super dead. Well, that's happened. Game 2. Jim, let's just move along. Move along. Cure got greedy, and he got God. I love Classic for just throwing that out there. It's such a like if there's a scout, I'm pretty convinced while it might delay the command center, it definitely doesn't win the game. If you have enough time to build one bunker, but well, that's what Cure gets. Honestly, when Maru and Clem and Byun do those no-scout builds, I feel the same way. They just don't get punished enough. And I think it's partially because nobody wants to try to out-micro those players. Classic, on the other hand, has no such qualms about the People's Terran. And also, it's a best of 5, so, like, even if it doesn't work out, I think you're okay. Well, checking for proxies himself is Classic. Cure's been known to enjoy building outside of his main. All right, he puts himself out there occasionally. Of course, Terran buildings can fly, which is a distinct advantage and a surprisingly advanced technology compared to the other races. A Reaper wall being built as well. Interesting to see which maps and which players decide on the Reaper wall. Cure? He's not scouting particularly early. Gives a chest bump. Actually more like a shoulder in the hallway to that probe. So not mineral walking through quite yet. Good to let him know you're watching. Or at least aren't watching because you didn't mineral walk. The probe will cosplay itself in Protoss versus Zerg, but no real reason to put a pylon down unless you're being especially cheeky, as for that building flying reason. The Terran can kind of just build a command center right next to it. So, Cure scouts the expansion. That's enough info for him. Classic is building a Zealot. He's just building it. Sometimes you build it and then you cancel it if there's no bunker or something. But he's just building the Zealot. Classic is spicy today. I think of Classic, at least historically. Maybe he's completely changed up his style, or maybe he just knows Cure too well. But Classic is the very heavy tech, at least especially since he's come back from his military service. He's been focused on teching up ridiculously fast and using those Protoss power units, the PPUs, working title, instead of more focused early pressure or timing attacks. He loves having all the tools in his toolbox. But right now, he's very focused on building just a lot of gateway units. The Zealot patrolling. How much did he see? He did see the expansion building as well. What does Cure have? A 3-rack spill. The only thing that's spotted is the reactor barracks at the front. It's a 1-gate robo, so there's still a lot of options here. Will Classic wall off? He's building an Immortal. It may be... He's put a lot of options. And by put a lot of options, I mean he hasn't built anything, alright? That was like caster code for he hasn't really done much that tells us anything. AKA, he's got a lot of options on the table. An even better caster would have found a way to draw your attention to something else until he decided on that Robo-Bait, but here we are. Like and subscribe. Double get. Well, here's your tech rush, by the way. 1 gate, 1 robo, and then a robo bay with double gas. Like, Classic needs more gate. He doesn't have a shield battery here. He's building pylons in front. Cure. Where are Cure's units? Oh, he's split them behind his cosplaying SCVs. He has them in his mineral lines because without a Reaper or a scan or walking up to the front door, he has no way of knowing exactly what tech Classic has. So it could be an Oracle, it could be DTs, or it could be one of the quickest Colossi rushes. Colossus, sorry. With 2 Immortals. Classic. No stranger to the robotics bay. Marines, Marauders, the Immortals. Is there enough for a Guardian Shield? Not quite yet. 1 force field. He spots the Marines. The Colossus is going to come out. I think Cure is going to turn 360 degrees and walk away. No third? I don't know exactly what he spotted. He saw at least an Immortal, I'm pretty sure. That should be enough. Like, if there's no third, Cure knows he's playing defense. Especially since there hasn't been an Oracle, there hasn't been Blank Stalkers, nothing like that. You can see the methodology here. Very simply. Both players just kind of chilling on 2 base. 5 more gates being added on to the 2 we already see. So the gateway explosion. Classic perfectly happy to stick on that 2 base army composition. Hallucinated Phoenix. Something chasing things down. Cure now realizing, yeah, Colossi on the field. Extended thermal lance on the way. A second army. The starport just now finishing. And that is what you cut out with this build. The starport. The build Cure's doing, this 3 racks, is very good at dealing with these greedy third base builds that a lot of Protoss love to do. It is not so good at dealing with someone who rushed Colossi with multiple Immortals. You really do need medevacs or starport units in general. Now this is going to get kind of awkward though, as Classic just kind of walked across the map chasing the army. The stims at the natural, not even... There's no energy for a recall. There's energy for the recall in the main, but you got to make a very tough decision. Classic going to press the issue. War Prism has joined the fray. Force field on the ramp cuts off the reinforcements. The first choice out of Cure is Vikings from the starport. The boys are locked behind the force fields. Juggling back the War Prism, the most valuable part of this. Meanwhile, all the probes are being slaughtered. 0 to 100 in almost 0 seconds flat. Classic's army is just bashing through Cure's natural. The main base is vulnerable. There's still probes. He could recall to either base at this stage. Cure has like no army left. He's gonna... Well, this is a big call. He's going to bring one of the Colossi back in the Prism, but will he even have a home to go back to? Vikings are being produced. Immortal triggered the barrier. 42 SCVs. Colossus coming back. Main base is gone. He's recalling. Everything's going for Cure type GG. You could have... It could have been a draw. Cure, what the... I'm upset. Okay, could he have killed the Nexus? Now, he doesn't know how many minerals are left over. Cure, okay, one more time. How many units do you have? 2 Colossi, okay, that's maybe a bit much. But, Cure has a third, he's mining, he recalled the army. I mean, there's still a few units. He's not gonna get the Nexus here. If he got the Nexus, this could either be a Cure win or a draw. I 100% say this was too early. Just because there's a small chance of a draw. While Cure's in a very bad spot, make no mistake. He has 1 SCV. And he can't know. Oh. He just tapped it out. He was done with it. Well, that's 2 for Classic. That is, not great for the people's Terran. This one, Cure just... It did not work out. I don't know, like... Classic figured out the build more than early enough, and I think he really did want to go for that early robo anyways. Right now these builds are... Cure's not ready. Cure is, he doesn't have the antidote. I don't know another more clever way to say it's just not working, but it's just not working. (2-0). I was hoping, because both these players... I consider both these players are on the same level right now. Oh, come on, bro. I mean... Well, that pylon is certainly... Is this a Max Packs build, or is he going to go with the classic cheese? Yeah, it's just 2 gates. But instead of... So, here's the real progression. We've reverted. Originally, the cheese against Terran, especially, was proxy 2-gate. Then we went to 1 gate in the base, and then 1 gate on the map. So that way you kind of mask it. And then Max Packs was like, what if you just only built 1 gate on the map? Because they still have to deal with it, so... And now Classic's like, what if we built 2 gates on the map? And here we are. How the turntables have turned. So this is an SCV scout, but it's so late. And we're on Pride of Altaris, the largest map. It's so late that I don't know how much time Kira will have. Just any amount of time is a lot. Just literally being able to build a bunker on the high ground is a lot. Kira sees no expansion, which is pretty sus, as they say. Cancels everything. That's it. Cancel everything to the high ground. I figured it out. Not again. Classic. You cheesy, filthy, disgusting Protoss. Not again. Cure just pulls the cord on this one. And cuts his potential losses. And then sends the Reaper across smartly, realizing, you know what, wait a second. Yeah, okay. You know, I say Protoss players a lot of the time, they play like deck builders. Like they have strategies to pull out and see how much they can get done and try to catch your opponent off guard. Well, usually the cards are a little bit more advanced than 2-gating twice. Well, 4 probes died. Shield battery's done. Though, Cure with competent Reaper micro, forcing the Stalker back home. He knows what he needs to do. He's not quite at the watchtower here with the SCV, unfortunately, but... Complete. So, Cure did a good job of whittling down the probes and limiting the build. Ah, yes, this time it's a Twilight Council. Are we really going to go the full cliche and make DTs? He's making a lot of Stalkers like he wants to go blank. But really, I think Classic wanted to win the game by now. That's what I think. A Cyclone in production for Cure, a nice safe choice. He's got a starport on the way. He's got an expansion. Cure just needs to not die. That is the extent of his needs. Past that, well, I guess scouting. He already scouted the Twilight. Actually, in fact, he's only seen the Twilight. I guess he assumed the gates were there, and he assumed correctly. The entire Protoss army. All right. Go get him! Run! Well, Cloak Banshee. Wow. That's a cheeky choice right there. Understanding that when you go blink on one base, you rarely have detection. So the Cloak Banshee could just be checkmate. Classic. I mean, go big or go home. This gold base is closer to the rest of his base than his main, so why not? With the Cloak finishing up, Cure has... This is one of the few times Cloak Banshee is clearly the right choice in this matchup. They just usually are such an investment that if you can't... Okay, yeah. Sure. Yeah. Why not? The double blind gold. Cure going to head towards the main and probably get a little suspicious. I mean, this might be a little bit of this might be too greedy even for someone taking insane risk. We'll see though. If he plays safe, he's way behind. So. Cure, I think he's realized in one fashion or another. He actually pulled the Banshee back. I think he was busy microing. The second Banshee just flies over the gold. Which makes things awkward. Where's the Robo now? In the main, the first tech building besides the Cyber Core there. The Banshee was revealed, and then it just left, which gave Classic the time to build a Robo. So here we are, with Cure having 2 gold bases. And, meanwhile, not Cure having 2 gold, Classic having 2 gold. I don't know what I said. I think I said Cure. Cure's timidly taking his natural. Thing is, though, that's a lot of dead probes. Combining... Okay, the Banshee missing some shots, but not so many that he doesn't do devastating damage to the economy. Oh, God. Here comes the rest of the Stalkers, just to make sure those Banshees feel intimidated. And then he'll leave. But not before one runs out of energy. 15 probes. That is nearly a GG of probes. He's building 3 at a time, and the gold bases are a nice boost in income. But so are mules. Cure, I like it. You realize it. Just sit back, relax. I killed 15 probes. There's, even with double... Wait, did he see the other gold? He doesn't realize there's 2 golds. So, as time goes on, that may come back to bite him. But, overall, it's hard to lose from this position as Cure as long as he eventually moves out of his base. I really like how bold Classic has been from this kind of terrible position. Yeah, 3 tanks. I think you could narrow it down to just 1 tank with a good blank. Cure picks up 8 Marines and a medevac. Yeah, I think not knowing about the second gold. The SCV is gonna spot it. Let's go to the Cure action cam here. Oh, come on, Cure. We're kind of getting there now. We're closing in on the point of the game where if Cure doesn't do something soon, Classic is gonna start climbing his way back. Yeah, there we go. There's that Banshee. Medevac heading north. Cure out on the map. I don't think this was spotted, but the observer will in a moment. Going for the Twilight and 2 of the gates here. Well, that's not a good warp in. Just cancels it, sends them right back to the void. It doesn't reset the cooldown, and you do get the money back, but the units don't warp in, which is the downside. And then Artosis would be proud of how much was just depowered by that pylon. A recall comes out, but this time I don't think it'll end with Cure GG. The army moving out. You're scrambling a little to make sure he gets the damage done. Classic trying to repower most of his buildings. That is a deadly and probably game-winning Terran. +1 attack against no upgrades. I'm gonna give some style points to Classic, though. He doesn't have a recall. There's no getting out of this one. Here picks up, he drops back at the natural, but I love it. Alright, just throw it all the Protoss shenanigans. Yeah. I'm not locked in here with you, metaphorically. You're trapped in the linear prison that is your mind. My cognitively unsophisticated Terran friend. Classic takes his natural. Cure, 100 army supply. Double that of Classic. Better upgrades, better army. He has yet to claim his victory, as Classic refuses to stop stabbing him in the knee. But yeah, there's a wall off here. Okay, all right, Classic. Kier's got this one. Nice try with the 2-gate. Kier runs his entire army back, which may serve to give Classic the time to pretend like he's still in the game. Like, okay, is he gonna actually blink out here? Okay, all right, we're not done yet. There goes the Twilight, but he got a Dark Shrine on the way at home. The Classic. Oh my god, I gotta stop. But I can't, and I won't, and apparently neither can Classic. Cure, please. Please, Cure, if he lets this one slip. Alright, well, those tanks are doing horrible damage. That was a very update. He can't actually see how many tanks there are until it's too late. Because of the vision blocker. Cure will claim his victory. A bit concerning. But Classic from the first SCV in a difficult position. So far, I'm loving Classic in this series. It's been a great ride so far. A short one. But it's not the length of the ride that matters, but instead, how many upgrades, whether or not it's scouted, does it have splash damage, etc., etc. So we will get more games. No clean sweep here. Game 4. Glittering Ashes. No probe on the map. Pylon clearly not for proxy gates. I do criticize Protoss for not trying builds that work. I think an example is Showtime with, well, Showtime is an example of the opposite. Doing a very similar build in every game and still making it work. But Trap recently with his Stargate into Blink opener against Zerg. Looking solid. Great. Putting out a lot of pressure, even though it was scouted. And then he just doesn't pull that build out of the series again and ends up losing 3-2. So, I don't really mean proxy gate cheese when I say you gotta try the same build at least twice. I mean like a general game plan and follow-up for your generic opener. But I appreciate that Classic was willing to go for it. There's something to be said for that. There's a breed, and I think that's the correct word of Protoss, the YOLO toss, which are in somewhat short supply nowadays. Like, we have a lot of deck builders, like Trap and Hero. But the YOLO toss, Parting, MC, Zest, These Protoss players who just pulled the trigger seemingly haphazardly. They do something, and because of the sheer confidence of the action, by the way, game 4 until we mention Zest, and in context, bonus points, like and subscribe. But the sheer confidence of their actions is what gives their opponents pause. I distinctly remember games where Zest comes in with like 3 Zealots, a Phoenix, an Adept, and a Sentry against like 30 supply of Bio. And watching the Terran player back off because he's like, wait, that's not it, right? Just the sheer confidence. Classic, I don't think shares that. Maybe not yet, but I saw some shades of it right here and in last game. Now, it's not a reliable thing to be a YOLO toss. For every 1 or 2 games or series you win like that, there's definitely a painful loss that probably shouldn't have been. But it is fun to watch. And what are we here for, if not to show good games for the fans? A Zealot was the choice. So, I guess he didn't want to commit another building over here. Classic has been building the Zealot. In one way or another, every game, he's built a Zealot off the first gate. Of course, 2 of those games were 2 gates, but like, here we are again in game 4, and he actually goes for the Zealot before the Cyber. It is, it's one of those things we kind of cut out a while ago. People just realize you don't really need a Zealot. You can get a Cyber Core unit out in time before the Reaper does damage. The class is like, no, build a Zealot. What if he builds a bunker behind my mineral line with those annoying Terrans? Well, here we are. I think it's partially that he's rushing this RoboBay build. Kira tried to do the grenade bounce thingy. I don't think it works if it's set up exactly like that, but points for effort. Technically, if there's a small enough space and the Reaper's moving in a particular way, and also Jupiter's in retrograde or something, then the Reaper grenade can bounce the Reaper over the wall into the base, getting you probably no scouting information because it's all at the natural, but in general, can be a cute move to get that Reaper in. Well, deja vu. We've just been in this place before. 3 Rex Bio push against the RoboBay. Hey girl. Are you a RoboBay? Because you make my thermal lance extent. Adept Shade scouts the army. Colossus on the way. No shield battery from Classic. Yet again. Ah, the Colossus. Ah! Well, is he going to try to go? He's split. There's only 1 immortal this time. He turns. The force field. It does nothing. The Marines. The Marines. Oh, I'm sorry. He gets it. Cure. About face and hits the stems. And Classic, a split second too low on the reaction. And he loses that all-important first Colossus. I was wondering exactly what scenario it would take for Kier to go for it. And it appears just the 1 immortal, plus not enough energy for a Guardian Shield, plus a little sprinkle of spice and everything nice. That easily could have been the end of the game in the series. That was a huge gamble. I mean, Kira was still going to lose some units if he retreated, but there's a very real chance he doesn't kill the Colossus and loses all his units for free and has no momentum. But the Colossus is an incredibly expensive PPU. Protoss Power Unit, working title. And is, I mean, doubly so when literally it's what your entire build pivoted on. The Colossus was the build. It wasn't like we're building Colossi with this build. It was 1 gate RoboBay into Colossus. It's like Destiny's Child without Beyonce kind of situation, where technically there were other people involved, but one of them was Beyonce. I think I got that right? That's a good reference. Most of you are older than me, I think. I hope. At this point, feel old now. These nerds are old too. I think Classic and Cure are both like 26, 27. Don't feel too bad. Is that why they play builds that are just a move and gambling? Shut up. Shh. Not important. Completely unrelevant. Well, there's 2 Colossi here. A sentry push, the likes of which you'd be more likely to see in Wings of Liberty. +1 infantry weapons, double tanks, Classic going for it. The tank hits are good, the force fields are better. The Colossi burning through the SCVs, 19, 20, 22 SCVs, but the tanks. He just recalls directly in his face. The Medivacs, by the way, the reason that did any damage, really, is because there were 2 Medivacs of units halfway across the map. There's a Colossus in that thing. It reveals it. So that Cure was essentially in purgatory. He was halfway across the firing map. Right when Classic moved in, which is possibly the worst time for that to happen. What am I watching? Alright. Map Marauder. Okay. Well, we got there. There's a particular seating chart in the medevac. No, you can't scooch. There's safety regulations. I know, surprising, right? The Colossus dropped events. So, while he killed a lot of SCVs, remember Classic did not take a 3rd Nexus very early. I don't believe he has a forge, so no upgrades. His Twilight is just now building, 2 forges, so he noticed as well. On the other hand, Cure lost SCVs, but nothing really critical to the rest of his build. He didn't lose his 3rd command center. He still has the upgrades. He has most of the medevacs intact. So he still has a very potent force out on the map, whereas Classic is quickly losing the potential effectiveness of those first Colossi, just through the sheer power of Cure's army. Well, he's just gonna drop. He's eating the Colossus damage on the Marauders. He just tanks it right there, works out, drags the rest of the army back. The Classic 1-2. And then the 3rd base is very vulnerable. Recall's still on cooldown. Base will be dead by the time it's off. The Marauders mostly survive, though there's more medevacs than bio units left over. It's a little awkward here. Some juggling. Charge isn't done. I don't know about fighting into that tank line. The objective has already been accomplished. Your Classic down 20 supply now. The tanks just brutalizing these Protoss units, smashing through the Immortals. Classic is dancing his Colossi in and out of the prism, but I'm not entirely convinced that is the ideal play right now. He loses one of the Colossi. He wins the fight and then taps out of the game because he knows it cost him far too much. Wow, this has been a bit of a roller coaster series here. It's 2-2. We're all tied up. Classic. This time, Cure focused a little more on the tanks. He didn't take critical damage on his side of the map. And he sniped that first Colossus. He took a risk. But it pays off. I think you can boil down a lot of that game to that first Colossus snipe. Without it, you do not have the opening or the army supply to do much of what we saw in the rest. Classic no probe on the map. Important to note here in Game 5. $2,000 atmospheres. Alright. None of these games going particularly involved. It's a nice way of saying getting really to the late game. Now, not every series can have it's super drawn out, dramatic half map. In fact, most series don't have those sort of late games. Most is maybe strong, but there are plenty that don't. Many of them don't make it to YouTube or to many platforms, as these quick games, by definition, are a little harder to remember unless they're particularly crazy cheese. So you tell me, what do you think? Do you enjoy the quicker games? Now, I'm saying this. I realize I truly don't know how this series ends. I don't know. This game could be 45 minutes long, and everybody will forget about this part anyways. So you know what? I'm going to go back to square one. I'm going to say, if you enjoy the shorter games, the shorter series that tell a shorter story, but are still pretty fun. Because I do prefer to cast the more dramatic later game. With multitasking going on all sides of the map. Sometimes you get into these crazy late game scenarios. But that does sometimes cut out some of these decisive timings. Well, Classic doesn't want to play this out too far. I mean, that has been clear from about the 30-second mark. But Stargate? Right? Stargate? Oh, thank you. A Stargate proxy. But, like, while it's a proxy, it's not particularly close to the base. This is not for Void Rays. This should be for Oracles. He's going to blow my mind and go Tempest or something, but I would love to see Tempest. That's the clickbait title we're looking for. But very likely to be Oracle and designed to hit just a few seconds. Wow, Cure! Wow, he is, he sees it. Cure, scouring the map. Reading the room pretty well here. Understanding Classic is, not so interested in those standard macro builds so far. It's gonna be a Twilight right behind it. Likely for Blink, but who knows, right? 5 Marines chilling in the natural. The thing is here, for Cure, there's always the combo with the Adepts. That's a very common part of all this. The Adept's trying to get into the main, but the Adept coming in. Marines targeting the Oracle. Actually, very good targeting here. So while I thought the Adepts might turn the tides in Classic's favor, instead, Cure just maintains focus, prioritizes the Oracle, and drives Classic back. That was, yeah. Like, did he even lose? And he lost 3 Marines. Okay. But that was about as perfect as it gets. The Oracle, so badly bruised, a strong gust of wind or changing of the tides might wash it away. Blink on the way behind. We got 3 Stalkers at a time. There's 3 gates, right? Yeah. Those Stalkers designed to keep Cure at home, because when you're up against these Stargate builds, well, one, you usually don't have an engineering bay that early. This isn't Bronze League Heroes. You don't usually want to build an engineering bay until you're ready to invest in the upgrades. Only when it's forced upon you will you get it earlier than this. And without turrets, there's really no threat of Cure moving out. And especially since it's been spotted, obviously, by the Hellion and the Viking, that there's a starport done. Classic will get away with the 3rd Nexus. He will get away with Blank. But has to quickly fill out the rest of the army while maintaining whatever control he can with both these things. The Blink and the Oracles are now for kind of molding Cure as much as he can into a more palatable shape. Keeping him at home and keeping him busy. What do we got over here? He's gonna go with the brute force. Follow it. The charge knots. Stasis ward at the front. There is a Raven for Cure with a nice Swiss Army knife at Terran. Much like the Oracle for Protoss, it has a ton of utility. Multiple great abilities. Viking on deck. But the probe, citizens arrest, sir! I mean, Viking's surprisingly good against probes. Gets 3 of them, but does end up dying anyways. For some reason, there were units in the medevac here. The Oracle heading in. Oh! I didn't see it either. I wonder if Cure even realized. Well, that mine connects. Almost walks into the stasis. Classic a little desperate to get him to do so. But right now, Classic has a worker lead, but a supply deficit. The army supply is pretty devastatingly low for him right now. Those warp gates are only now coming online. +1 attack. Charge. There are a couple sentries. The Blink Stalkers at the back will actually blink in, trying to do a repeat of Pride of Altaris here, but right now, Cure has a potentially game-winning army. Oh, you've got to be careful, those force fields! Auto turrets just gonna try to beat their way through it. They missed! There's a gap! Cure! Comes screaming through and he's tearing him apart! An absolute disaster for Classic! He even had the setup there, he just missed the force field. Oh no, it's a disaster. And he will drive him out of his own base, knock out the pylon, and I think Cure has just completed the reverse sweep. There's no splash damage, there's nothing that really turns the tides here. Cure played a nice save. Cure got progressively more suspicious of Classic. I loved watching Cure get suspicious. From the first game where he's like, you know what, I won't go for a scout. We're going to have a nice gentlemanly macro game, to the I'm going to check every corner of the map with a Hellion. It did not take long. All right? This is how trust issues are formed. But I hope you trust me to bring you some good games pretty much every day. And if you do, or if you're willing to take that leap, please like, subscribe, ring the bell, check out a new video every day. What do you want to see? More of those custom mods so people can actually have fun with the game. More cheese fest like this one. More drawn out macro battles. More Protoss versus Protoss. Either way, thank you for watching. I hope you enjoy. Good luck, have fun. I'll see you next time. Stay chill.